Hi guys, welcome to another video. In this video, I am here to discuss about a very important topic, that is the greater omentum. You often get one short note on it in your prof exams. So let's start with this. So what is greater omentum? It is just a fold of the peritoneum, okay? So it's just a fold of the peritoneum and in which fat is stored. So if you have ever done the dissection on a cadaver, then you must have found a yellowish thing hanging out completely and covering everything. It is a greater omentum basically, okay? So what is greater omentum? So here we will discuss about it. It is a large fold of the peritoneum and it hangs down from the greater curvature of the stomach, and it hangs down like an apron and it covers the loop of the intestine to a varying extent, okay? So like this, if I try to make a rough diagram of it, this is the stomach and from here lies the omentum like this, and it will cover the loops of the intestine completely, or up to a varying extent it will cover loops of the intestine also, okay? Cover it, so it covers the loop of the intestine to a varying extent. So it is made up of total 4 layers, okay? It is made up of total 4 layers. So first here I will tell the theory of it, and then I will summarize the same thing through a diagram, okay? So it is made up of 4 layers: first, second layer, and the third, fourth layer. And these 4 layers are fused, all are fused together, and they together form a greater omentum, okay? It contains variable quantity of the fat also, so it contains fat. It also contains small arteries and small veins also, okay? So all these things it contains. So we have the attachments, okay? What attachment we have of this greater omentum? So we have the 2 layers, first and the second layer. These 2 layers, what they will do, they will descend from the greater curvature of the stomach, and to a variable extent they will descend down, and then they will fold upon themselves, okay? Then they fold upon themselves to form a posterior 2 layers, 3 and 4 layers, which ascend to anterior surface of the head and the anterior border of the pancreas. So let's try to understand it with the help of a diagram. So here I have made a diagram. So what I was trying to say was that these are the 2 layers, first layer and this is the second layer. These 2 layers, they will descend down to a varying extent and cover the loops of the intestine, okay? And after traveling a certain distance, they will fold upon themselves, okay? So these first and the second layers, they descended down and they folded upon themselves, and then they form 2 more layers, that is a third layer and the fourth layer. So here you can see the first layer is becoming the fourth layer and the second layer is becoming the third layer. They folded upon themselves, and they are here you can see this is very large area, but it's not like that, okay? They look like fused together only, okay? So this is the third layer and the fourth layer. Now this third and the fourth layer, they will ascend up and they will travel anterior to the transverse colon and also to the head of the pancreas, okay? So here you can see the pancreas and the transverse colon in the relation of the third and the fourth layer. So here you can also see that this fourth layer is in very close association with this anterior part of the transverse colon, okay? And it forms this space called as a transverse mesocolon, okay? So this fourth layer is in very close relation of the transverse colon, and it is forming a transverse mesocolon also, okay? So this is a very good diagram which summarizes everything. So here you can also see the stomach, that this is a greater curvature, this is a lesser curvature of the stomach, and here you can also see this is the site of the epiploic foramen, through which the lesser sac will communicate with the greater sac. So what is happening is, you can see that these second and the third layer, it is together forming a lesser sac, okay? And also we studied in the diagram of the stomach in the earlier video that the lesser omentum or the lesser sac lies in the relation with the lesser curvature of the stomach, okay? So here also you can see this is the lesser omentum. Here I have depicted the lesser omentum, and this is the lesser curvature of the stomach. This is just a longitudinal section of it, okay? It's nothing different, it's just a longitudinal cross section, what you can see here, okay? Now I have summarized the theory with the help of this cute little diagram. So here you can see that I have discussed the same thing here also. Anterior 2 layers descend from the greater curvature of the stomach to a variable extent, and then they fold upon themselves to form the posterior 2 layers, which ascend to the anterior surface of the head and anterior border of the pancreas, okay? And also what I want to tell you is, which I already told you, that first layer it will become the fourth layer, and the second layer it will become the third layer. Okay, first layer becomes fourth layer, second layer becomes the third layer, and in the upper part, the fourth layer is partially fused to the anterior surface of the transverse colon and of the transverse mesocolon. Okay, so this fourth layer is forming this transverse mesocolon. Okay, the part of the peritoneal cavity called as a lesser sac between the second and the third layer, it gets obliterated except for about 2.5 centimeter below the greater curvature of the stomach, right? So here you can see is, what they want to say is that this part, which you can see that this is forming a space, it's only around only 2.5 centimeters only, beyond which all these four layers are completely fused. Okay, so this is only the 2.5 centimeter length below the greater curvature, in which you can see these two layers, that is the second and the third layer, forming the sac, which is called as a lesser sac. So this is what it was written here, that the part of the peritoneal cavity called the lesser sac between the second and the third layer, it gets obliterated except for about 2.5 centimeter below the greater curvature of the stomach. Okay, so this is clear, the anatomy is clear. So now we are here to discuss about the contents of this greater omentum. So first and very easy content is the fat, as we already discussed that it is a storehouse of the fat, and also it contains these right and the left gastroepiploic vessels. In the anatomy of the stomach, when I was teaching about the blood supply of the stomach, in that also you saw that in the stomach, this greater curvature is supplied by the right and left gastroepiploic vessels. So these gastroepiploic vessels, these are the content of this greater omentum. So greater omentum is also coming from the greater curvature, na? So obviously we can, with the help of this, we can conclude that these right and the left gastroepiploic vessels, which we learned earlier, it is a content of greater omentum only. So these vessels anastomose with each other in the interval between the first and the second layers of the greater omentum, a little below the greater curvature of the stomach. So in which layer? Between the first and the second layer of the greater omentum. Okay, so these are the content of the greater omentum. Now what is the function of this greater omentum? Why do we have this omentum? So first of all, it's the storehouse of the fat. जितना ज़्यादा मोटा इंसान होगा उसमें इतना ही ज़्यादा फैट होगा ओमेंटम के अंदर. Okay, which you have already seen in your cadavers also. So it is a storehouse of the fat, and most importantly it contains macrophages. So why these macrophages are important? These macrophages, they will protect us from the peritoneal they will protect the peritoneal cavity against the infections. Okay, so therefore these macrophages are important in the greater omentum. And these macrophages, if they collect together, they will form small tiny dense white patches which are visible to the naked eyes. So these are known as the milky spots. Okay, they look like tiny milk drops on the omentum. They are nothing but just the collection of the macrophages. So these are called as the milky spots. Also it is called as a policeman of the abdomen. You get MCQs over this topic, like which of the following is a policeman of the abdomen, on which of the following structure you can see the milky spots. Okay, MCQs like that. So these are very simple MCQs, you cannot mark them wrong. Okay, so it is called as a policeman of the abdomen because it limits the spread of the infection by moving to the site of the infection and sealing it off. Okay, it goes to the site of the infection and it seals this site off from the surrounding area. So therefore it prevents the spread of the infection in the whole peritoneal cavity. Okay, so that's why it is called as a policeman of the abdomen. And also it forms a partition between the supracolic and the infracolic compartments. Okay, so it is forming a partition between the supracolic and the infracolic compartments. So this is the applied anatomy of the greater omentum, that why greater omentum is important for our body. So in this video we discussed about the basic anatomy, layers of the greater omentum, and the contents and the function of the greater omentum. And also we saw this diagram of the greater omentum, which you can make in your prof exams also. You can draw it and you can fetch good marks also. So this was all about the greater omentum, and please like and subscribe this channel and share as much as possible with your friends if you find this helpful. And thank you so much. Keep watching our videos. Thank you.